Hey folks, John Cantera, the Double Broker Bounty Hunter here. Welcome to another edition of the Tic Toc Diner. Make sure you grab yourself a menu and a seat, and your server's going to be right with you. But before we get things started, we do need to go ahead and knock out a Task Force Minute. For the Freight Fraud Task Force, it's time for the Task Force Minute with your host, the Double Broker Bounty Hunter, John Cantera. Thank you. My public, they adore me. Anywho, folks, for those of you who don't know, AGX Logistics, powerhouse brokerage out of Jacksonville, Florida, has closed its doors 2 days ago. And scammers wasted no time whatsoever in jumping in and capitalizing on that. Motor carriers, please be exceptionally careful. AGX no longer exists. There are people out there impersonating AGX, trying to sling freight in the hopes of stealing cargo. So if you're a motor carrier and in the last day or two you've booked a load with AGX freight, I'd be making some phone calls back to the shipper if I were you. Take care out there, because the scammers just don't stop regardless of the weather. For the Freight Fraud Task Force, this has been another Task Force Minute. Please be sure to like and subscribe on all of our social media. Until next time, don't let scammers take you for a ride. For all the latest news out there when it comes to trucking, especially fraud in trucking, those of us here at the Task Force, we rely on Trucking News Hub. Be sure to check out Trucking News Hub's site. We have a site dedicated to news regarding freight fraud on that page. This is our official news source. Be sure to check that out any chance you get. So with that being said, Jeff, old buddy, I see you in the car and cruising along. Where are you headed to today?
I am driving to Philadelphia for the 116th annual dinner of the Transportation Club of Philadelphia. It takes about 2.5 hours to drive down there. So, I'm looking forward to seeing some old friends in the business. One in particular, Sam Frugio. He's been in the business a lot longer than me, probably about 55, 60 years, and he's a drayman. He's owned a dray company, pulling out of the port of Newark, Holland Hook, all the ports around Newark, and he is the carrier of the year at the Traffic Club of Philadelphia this year. So looking forward to seeing him.
Well, since you pioneered how to move stone blocks up the side of pyramids, it's hard to imagine somebody who's been in this industry longer than you have. But congratulations. I'm sure it's well deserved. I'd like to meet the guy. You know, wife and I have actually talked about relocating to Philly, but with all the latest snow coming in, you know, the last week Snowmageddon, and this week you got another bomb cyclone coming your way. I think we're going to stay in Florida, where it's nice, sunny, and warm.
I think I want to move for.
After 3/4 of a mile.
I'll have a little bit of feedback coming off you, Jeff, as you're between cell phone towers. So in the meantime, let's go ahead and introduce our guest. For those of you who don't know, Ryan Joyce has been in the game for quite some time in trying to help deal with fraud in the industry through his platform, GenLogs. You've heard us talk about GenLogs on this program a couple of times. We finally have the man, the myth, the legend himself on with us today to talk more about what they do and how they get it done. So Ryan, welcome to the show, sir. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me. And I was actually lucky. Was at a conference last week that ended in Florida, and I got stuck there in beautiful 80-degree weather over the weekend, and not in Virginia in the snow. So I'll take it. I just got back to Virginia last night.
I'm jealous because it's a very icy cold 50 degrees in Pensacola. So you must have been enjoying life there in South Florida.
It was wonderful
for that. So Lucky you. I don't think you're going to get that lucky this weekend, though, are you?
Well, getting some more snow here. It looks like gearing up for it. But hey, that's good in general, hopefully for truck rates. So we'll see how things go in the spot market over the next few weeks.
You know, we have seen a spike in the rates prior to last week's storm, and now as things are starting to thaw out across the South and across the Mid-Atlantic, rates are spiking yet again. So good luck, carriers. Enjoy it while it lasts. It won't last for very long. But yes, there is another storm coming through. And for the love of God, if you have freight going through these areas, whether you're a broker, a carrier, a dispatcher, or whatnot, please manage the expectations of your customers and make sure they understand their freight just might get delayed. Moving cargo is not worth losing your life. So please be safe out there. Okay, enough of that PSA. Ryan, you have one of the most promising platforms I have ever come across in this industry when it comes to fighting fraud. Why don't you tell us a little bit about how you got into this business and what it is that GenLogs does?
Yeah, well, I'll say GenLogs is known as the truck intelligence platform, but I do not have a background in trucking. I've never gotten into a Class 8 truck, driven one. I've never brokered freight to one. And so I always like to be really clear that I am not from the industry. The intelligence part is where I do have a background. So I spent almost 2 decades in the U.S. intelligence community. A fair chunk of that was at CIA, where I was running counterintelligence and counterterrorism operations all around the globe, and got really steeped in using data from a whole lot of different sources, whether that was satellites and cameras and human sources, financial documents, open source, bringing it all together to tell a coherent story, to be able to separate fact from fiction, and really to help us vet the sources that were volunteering to give information to the CIA virtually. So right now, if you go to cia.gov, upper right-hand corner, there's a button there that says report information. And that is awesome to get information from people all over the world, but it presents a problem of trying to figure out who is real and trying to give you credible information and who is crazy or who's trying to lure you out to do you harm. And it's that latter part we called back in the CIA, those were called double agents. Well, fast forward to what's going on today, and we see double brokers being the problem here. You just mentioned, be careful as these brokers go underwater. There are people trying to broker freight in their names. Those are double brokers. And what GenLogs is essentially doing is applying the entire methodology that developed over 250 years of the U.S. intelligence community and applying that within the last 2 years against what's happening in trucking. So we've put out cameras, we leverage satellite data, we do IoT devices, financial data. All of that comes in to tell a coherent story of, is this carrier real? Are they running on the roads? Do they have the right equipment for this load? And that is really a key defense in making sure that you're not getting defrauded.
So you guys have just reached an impressive milestone, 500, and I have to question this, free investigations that you've done? Tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, sure. Well, back in November of 2024, we just felt it was the right thing to do to provide investigative support for the entire industry for free. So just like you can go to CIA's website, upper right-hand corner, say report information, you can go to genlogs.io, upper right-hand corner, there's a button that says find lost assets. If you hit that, we're going to ask you, what are you missing? It could be equipment, it could be a load that was stolen and you have no idea where it is. You fill out the details. Our investigative team hops on it right away. We try to find exactly where it is. We investigate who might have taken it, how that theft might have occurred, and we give you all of that data so that you can take to law enforcement, or we can certainly go on your behalf, and we're not going to send you a bill. We're going to do that for free. We just feel like it's the right thing to do for the industry. It certainly helps us understand more about what are the fraudulent patterns going on, how is theft occurring these days. And in fact, now that we've gone and done 500 of these investigations, we've gone back and reviewed and said, what is the modus operandi of the bad guys? And these days we're seeing about 90% of the thefts that are occurring are due to this quote unquote sold motor carrier number. This carrier was legitimate. They were out there, they were running on the roads, and we saw them at GenLogs on the roads. But at some point they disappear from the roads and a few weeks go by. And during those weeks, they sold their motor carrier number on a Telegram or a Facebook group. And often, unfortunately, that's coming these days with the email and the phone, which is all you need to bypass that two-factor authentication, a lot of these vetting platforms. And then they go ahead and hit a number of brokerages posing as a carrier that once did exist on the roads, is in most of these vetting platforms still viewed as a pass or a green check or whatnot. But GenLogs has seen them disappear. And that's where we're seeing this threat persist right now.
You know, I've been on the receiving end of some of your investigative work. I've sent some cases your way. Most recently, a couple of weeks ago, for a client that I work with as a consultant, and the information that I get back off of your program absolutely floors me. I'll give you an example off of this recent investigation. You sent me some pictures from a couple of years ago about this motor carrier running with a fake label over top of their actual name. And I sat there and I dug in deeper into that fake company. And it turns out that particular fake company only existed for 5 months and had one truck and had some 600 inspections against them. 600 roadside inspections. How do you get one truck to get 600 inspections? Well, that's because not only are people selling their MC number when they go out of business, but it seems like there are people going into business just to sell their MC number so these guys can run under false pretenses and get violations dumped onto a different DOT number. It blows my mind, the kind of stuff that you've been able to dig up using your platform. How in God's name did you guys come up with the idea to do something like this?
Yeah, I'll tell you what, when I was at CIA, I was subjected to certain like cameras and a whole bunch of other ways that the foreign entities, let's say Russia or China, were trying to uncover our operations. So I had to always think of like, what are the ways in which the data can be collected on me? And when I was trying to say, you know, these bad guys, they're trying to hide out there and they're trying to do some terrible things, unfortunately. And it goes beyond just cargo theft to human trafficking and narcotics trafficking. And you know, I think I've always agreed that fraud and theft are inherently anomalous activities. You're out there running loads on a daily basis and you're doing God's work out there, as most carriers are. That's pretty normal. You're running a load from point A to point B. You're picking up another load, point A to point B. Everything's looking, pretty normal. It's these anomalous activities that we're looking for. So long story short, I spent a few years working at a company that was focused on collecting data in the retail space, malls and shopping centers using cameras. And Ross Perot Jr. was actually on our board. And at one point during a meeting, he has big logistics network through Hillwood Logistics. He raised his hand and said, "Hey, what you guys are doing is really cool, collecting on people in malls and shopping centers. Could you do that on trucks?" And it was that question that haunted me for a while. And when I started to look at what was happening in this industry and saw the double brokering, the fraud, the theft, the $1 billion now of cargo fraud that goes on, I was like, man, I need to figure out how to solve this. And I think I can apply my background in the trucking space. And that's what GenLogs came about.
Yeah, it's extremely interesting to me. You know, you've got this network of cameras that stretch across almost every major U.S. highway across the entire country. And you have, I remember you posted a few months ago about another milestone you guys hit. How many billions of photos do you guys have in storage at this point?
We're just shy of 3 billion images. And, we collect about 15 million images a day, but it's within each image of a truck, all of the different data points that we can collect from. Is it a sleeper cab, a day cab, roll doors, side doors? Is it, are there hazmat, viewed on or not? If so, what are those hazmat codes? That means that it's close to about 100 million data points on trucks that we're collecting from just our cameras each day. And then you factor in what we're doing from satellites and IoT devices and a whole lot of others. And it actually turns into about trillions of data points coming from millions of different data sources. That's what's really cool about working at GenLogs.
So who's your ideal customer? When your sales team goes out, who are they looking to talk to?
We started actually going to talk to the large carriers that we suspected had an issue with either unauthorized use of their equipment, stolen trailers, all the above, and they certainly did. We got connected very early on to some of the Werners and NFI and others, and we were able to work with their teams to figure out, hey, these trailers are missing. Who has them? And sure enough, we would find them with bad actors on the roads that were just hauling around without authorization. From there, it really kind of opened our eyes to how we can now help freight brokers more effectively source great carriers to therefore defend against that fraud and theft. And I would still submit that if you never post on a load board and all you do is you use carriers that you've created relationships with, you can verify in GenLogs that are running on the roads, right equipment, right lanes, you will literally never have a strategic theft issue. There's still the possibility of a straight theft in terms of someone trying to hijack that trailer at a truck stop or whatnot. But in terms of a lot of this cyber and identity theft that's happening, it is almost all happening because these matches are made on the load boards, and that is a bad actor to begin with, or you have that carrier in your carrier network, but they've since gone out of business and someone has their email that's not them. We can literally now take an entire carrier list of a broker, run it through, first of all, tell them how many are not even active with the FMCSA anymore. And I'm shocked that there's not a continuous cleansing of carriers as they go out of business, and therefore, as they no longer have authorities with the FMCSA, that should just be like, known and removed, but it's still, a lot of these carriers, they're still there. But that second piece of, has GenLogs seen them in the last 6 months? If we haven't seen a carrier in the last 6 months, there is something going on out there. Last 3 months, last month, I mean, you could really dial it in to say, hey, we want to make sure these are carriers that we work with are active. So freight brokerages have tended to account for about 80% of our customers. The other 10% are in the larger carriers, and then and medium and smaller carriers as well. We have a whole program that allows us to help them find shippers that they can work with. So we do work with carriers of all size, but that last 10% is also going to be on the insurance side, which I really think is important to unpack here, because insurance rates have skyrocketed due to this fraud across the industry. And as someone else is dealing freight, they're running 20 trucks under a 2 scheduled auto policy, and there's claims that are happening. Those rates are now affecting everyone. And what our insurance customers have been able to do is look at a carrier and say, if you claim 5 trucks, you're running on the Eastern Seaboard, you have dry vans, and this is like, we know where your area of operations is. And if GenLogs says the same, we're able to offer you a lower rate than we could if we had to diffuse that risk over everyone. And so it's what I'm most excited about is insurance companies that are now using our data to offer lower rates to better carriers and then push the burden of the higher rates onto riskier carriers. But that tends to be where we're selling right now.
Wow, that I
Ryan,
never even conceived of that. Go ahead, Jeff.
Yeah, Brian, of course, without mentioning any names for the obvious reasons, have any high-risk, high-security shippers sought your services for the obvious reasons? I would think that would be a great market, because especially with your $1 million to $3 million loads, a lot of companies hire private security, patrols on marked vehicles or whatever. Which
Jeff,
with,
you're also breaking up, but,
ability, which is that.
You have to love live shows.
No, I do. But Jeff, I heard enough of your question before you broke up to answer you. So the short answer is yes. High value, high risk shippers are absolutely interested in GenLogs in 2 ways. Number one, we've had a number of high risk, high value shippers come to us and ask if we can give them a list of the carriers and the brokers that are using GenLogs, because they feel a lot better about inviting a broker to their RFP process if that broker is using GenLogs to source and validate and vet carriers. But number two, we're seeing an increasing number of shippers now interested in bringing GenLogs into their entire process we're looking at potentially monitoring what is like the carriers that are coming to their gates, and in real time flagging, is this carrier legitimate and someone that you should absolutely like let in, no problems, or are there red flags in GenLog's system that would prompt some further investigation, and being able to triage right at the gate before you let a carrier in that might be willing, like there to do you harm. And so we're working with those shippers in two ways right now. That's set to expand in a big way in 2026, as we have a procurement intelligence platform planned product down the road, where it's going to help them select better carriers and better brokers to keep their freight safe.
So basically, this has sales implications for both carriers and shippers, as well as brokers all along the way.
You know, yeah, it certainly does. And I'd say GenLogs is becoming a competitive advantage out there for the brokers. We've heard through a few of these brokerages that the RFPs are now listing out like, hey, preference will be given to customers, and GenLogs being one of those, that if you use GenLogs, then you get preference in this process. And truly, it also, we have this whole side that I talked about, the shipper intelligence side, that for brokers and carriers, we've actually found all 550,000 locations of shippers in the United States. We know all of their lanes, we know their equipment types, we know their needs, and we're bringing in even more information to give the different types of like who do you contact, what is their revenue, what type of commodities do they ship, how long do trucks dwell there, is detention going to be pretty bad there or not? There's some other data sources we're bringing in to get that all into one place, so that a broker or carrier can now select better shippers to pursue as customers. And that's something we're really excited about. In about a week, we're going to be unveiling our Shipper Intelligence 2.0, which really brings this to the next level.
Nice.
Yeah, I can't wait to see something like that. It's nice to see some kind of tool that gives a very broad spectrum view of what's going on in the industry. You know, I look at some of the things that CargoNet publishes. I look at some of the things that FreightWaves kicks out, trying to identify what trends are within the industry. But it seems to me that some of the things that you're doing with your unique platform is you're able to sit there and not just see the trends, but you can actually watch them in real time, almost literally, as the trucks pass individual cameras, and pinpoint where they're at and what exactly is going on. It's been one of the things that's enamored me about what you guys have been up to. And I had you guys on my show once before, back when I was doing Stop the Scam early in your days. And to see the growth that you've experienced over the last year and a half has just absolutely blown my mind. You've done an amazing job, and the industry, I know, loves you for it. I certainly do. So I think I've used your free investigation tool at least a dozen times that I know of. So I don't know who the other 490 guys are, but they were smart reaching out to you. What else you guys have going on? You have this new integration coming up. What else you got going on? What are your plans for 2026?
Well, the only other thing I'll say for 2026, I'll just have to put a pin in it. We have a big announcement for next week. So that's kind of like a check-in Monday at 10 a.m. We'll be like kind of unveiling some really cool news about the company that's going to set us up for a lot of success here for the rest of 2026. You did note, though, about that, once you have cameras all over the place and you're seeing where trucks are and what those trends are, you can actually get really creative about the data that you can pull from all the truck companies and all of the trucking patterns on the roads. So in the second half of this year, we actually have a market intelligence product that we'll be bringing to market that will allow you, like, say, for example, you're looking at the Dallas area and you're interested in knowing, hey, how many flatbeds are in Dallas right now? Well, like, I don't have to tell you a trend. I can tell you an exact number, because with every single ingress or egress coming in or out of Dallas, we are collecting on all of those trucks, and we could tell you down to the specific number how many flatbeds or specific, step decks are there, and how many of those are likely to go east or likely to go west. Now, the implications are that you're going to really have an understanding of where capacity sits, not only now, but what it will look like 6 hours from now or a day from now, based on the trends of what we're seeing trucks on the roads from all different equipment types. So that will have an impact on the actual spot rates, both for carriers. So carriers will have a better understanding. Hey, do I need to get out of this place now because it's starting to get flooded and rates are going to drop? Or, hey, am I only one of 50 trucks here, and there's at least 200 loads that need to be moved, and I'm going to be in a pretty sweet position. And so what we're just trying to do is give better visibility across the board, so that people are playing on an even playing field. And frankly, it becomes more about competing on service at that point than it does competing on just asymmetric data. Then when we make data available for both sides, they can now know, like, hey, this is the market. And now we can discuss, am I the right carrier for you? Am I the right broker for you? And that's what we'll be doing in the second half of this year.
Wow. So you're not just there for the brokers or just the shippers. You're there for the carriers too. Yeah. The one negative that I ever hear about GenLogs is cost. Okay. And for the small carriers out there, the 1, 2, 3 truck carriers, what would it take for them to get access to your platform? Well, what kind of cost are they looking at?
Yeah, well, in the coming months, it's going to be extremely cost effective, borderlining on free for small carriers. And I'll say, and this is what I mean by that. We've had a number of carriers say to us, like, hey, look, I can't afford GenLogs, but I'm also struggling with some of these brokerages to even get onboarded with them because I don't have 2 years of authority or whatever they're going to require, or the number of inspections. Like, I can't get an inspection out there. And so can you help me out? Well, we've just been inundated with other broker inbound interest and all the above, but my heart's really with the carriers, the owner operators and the small fleets out there. And so in the near future, we're going to be giving carriers a way to essentially say, hey, I am registering with GenLogs, and I'm going to go ahead and say, like, this is me, and I'm claiming my carrier profile. Great. Once that's claimed, they're going to get access to GenLogs, not only their profile to send to any other brokerage, even if that brokerage is not a customer of GenLogs, but they're also going to get access to some of that shipper intelligence information so that they can go direct to shippers to track down great backhauls for them on certain roads. And I'll tell you the other thing that's really cool about this. The other day we had a sad, it's not too sad, but it was a carrier, I'd say mid-sized carrier did come to us. They were an intermodal carrier, and they said, Ryan, help us. We've been having these inspections pop up that are VINs that are not in our fleet, and we're trying to figure out what's going on. And I said, well, let's take one of those VINs, pop it in, and we're going to see what's happening. We popped in their MC, we popped in the VINs. Sure enough, we see these other trucks that are not in their fleet hauling car haulers over the roads, both Class 8 and hot shots. And it was a whole syndicate that was hijacking this carrier's MC, running vehicles around the U.S. But when they were getting inspected, they were terrible shapes. They were getting put out of service over, vehicle out of service, vehicle out of service. Well, that was hurting that mid-sized carrier, the legitimate carrier. And they said, Ryan, if we had a way to be flagged about this when it first started, because it had been going on for about 3 months, and it took them about that long to really realize what was happening. Said that would have been so valuable to us. I said, hey, we have something to help you coming soon. What essentially, once that carrier registers with us in the future, we're going to provide them Overwatch at that point. That if anyone else is trying to impersonate them, if anyone else is trying to, bid on freight in their name, if they got hacked, if a broker is trying to check on them but something doesn't, quite check out, we're going to flag that to the carrier right away to make sure that they're protected, that their name is protected, that their lineage is protected, and frankly, their business is protected. So that's something we'll be working on over the next few quarters here, is to really make GenLogs available to carriers in a way that protects them and continues to keep the bad actors out of the system.
Okay, now what you just said just blew my mind yet again. You are offering a rather comprehensive protection type package at a very low cost to these carriers in a time when impersonation is just unbelievably rampant. I boom. I don't know how best to explain that. You've kind of caught me on my back foot here. That is something that I've been chasing after, a means to be able to do that for a couple of years now. Jeff and I have been fighting fraud along with some of our fellow co-founders like Dale Prax to try to come up with different solutions to deal with these things and to help carriers as well as brokers. And whoa, you just blew my mind. Hopefully, we at the Freight Fraud Task Force can help in some way as you go to completely put that program together, even if it's just to test it, because that's some very valuable protection that you're offering the industry.
Yeah, we're trying to do so. It'll be somewhere between free or $5 a month. I mean, if you can't afford $5 a month, and that's going to cover the cost literally of just making sure we can cover the cost of the compute to monitor what's going on. But we're trying to make this so cost efficient that it's almost free for an owner operator to sign up, get that protection, and get moving, get leads sent to them, get the ability to send brokers their profile on GenLogs, make sure that they're validated, verified, and get free.
Jeff, you look like you got a couple questions there. You fire one off.
No. I'm listening. I'm intrigued. Totally intrigued with everything I'm hearing. It's fantastic. Keep going.
I have. I've been doing investigations for a long time in this industry, and it's no secret that I talk about you guys all the time. Whenever someone comes to me looking for help, I always tell them the first place I go is GenLogs, because especially in a cargo theft situation. But some of the things that you're unveiling today, talking about, I had never even known you've had this type of capability. I remember my old co-host Kate came to you one time looking to subscribe to your service, and it was a cost of like $2,000 a month for her carrier company to get access. And now you're saying that we can get this kind of protection and Overwatch for $5 a month or less. I mean, if there's a motor carrier out there who can't scrape up $5, I mean, it's real simple, guys. Don't go to Starbucks just once. Okay. I mean, you get 2 months worth of service out of that. Holy cow. I'm absolutely blown away. The cost effectiveness is insane. We're going to have you definitely on the show when you launch those, because we'd love for you to do a live demo on that process. And we'll get a couple of carriers on with us just so we can see how that flows out. So
yeah, we'd love to do that. We have a carrier right now that's actually helping us do some testing on this, and I was just chatting with them today, and man, we are like fired up with the ability to truly do Overwatch, that if someone else were to ever operate in his name, immediately we'd be letting them know. And it may even be like, I hope that this carrier, he's a owner operator, I hope that someday he does add a second or third truck to his fleet. And if he does, we'll at least, it's all this other truck now operating within your authority. And all he has to say is, yes, this is me. And boom, we've now added that truck. We've added, so we can kind of scale with fleets and always making sure that we're providing that hedge of protection around them. That's something I've wanted to do for a long time. And so this year, we're going to follow through on making sure that we have a solution that carriers can benefit from, that carriers can finally be protected, and really keep the bad actors out. So when we do unveil this and we're ready to kind of show it off, we'll absolutely circle back with you and we'll demonstrate this. We got a little bit more work to do to make sure that we could scale this out if it does kind of catch on real quick and we have hundreds and thousands of carriers that want to sign up for this protection. That's what this is there. We just have a little bit of internal work to do to make sure we can get it. But yeah, we realize like money's tight out there these days, and the average carrier can't afford what these brokerages or maybe willing or wanting to pay for the platform because they get a lot of value to source great carriers. If you're a carrier, we want to make sure you have the protection as well without that high price tag. And we can actually follow through on that this year.
And one of the things that has always bothered me in the carrier community is the old inspection requirement. I've seen it when I was a dispatcher. I used to see that all the time. Oh, well, we can't use you because you haven't had an inspection in the last 2 years or whatever. I don't know if brokers are just dense or what. And I'm not trying to bash brokers here. I'm really not, guys. When the whole idea of measuring a carrier by whether or not they've had inspections first came out, it was a good idea. It actually was. But it was July of 2024 that DOT stepped out and said no more voluntary inspections. So, guys like me, I had a fleet of box trucks. I could stop at my local scale house and have the guy give me a level 2 inspection anytime I wanted to. In fact, I did that often. But you can't do that these days. And this now helps provide proof to a broker that, yes, this guy's real. He actually operates on the roads, and it's not just an ELD base. So, you got the motor carriers who operate within that 150 air miles of their home base, and they're not required to have an ELD, especially like dray haulers and stuff like that. And now they can actually prove they exist, they operate, and they're all over the road within their 150 mile radius through you. Mm-hmm. And that's got to be a level of security that I think a lot of brokers are going to respect moving forward.
Yeah, I would certainly hope so. And that's actually this owner operator we're working with. That was his story, is when he had been a long time company driver for a while before he decided to set off on his own. And when he set off, started his own authority, went out there, man, no brokers would work with him. And I met this guy. In fact, we met him at the Broker Carrier Summit one year. Seemed like a fantastic guy. And I was shocked. Like someone that had driven for 20 years couldn't now start their own company and get freight. And so I told him, hey, if you meet with any broker and they're like questioning whether you're real or not, you send them to me. I will pull up your profile and I'll show it to him. And I started to do that, screenshot, sending. And I just said, why instead of me doing this, why don't I just give him the logins to his own profile? And then he could send that out to any broker he wants to work with, and they'll be able to verify it comes from a genlogs.io address or genlogs.com here pretty soon. And we'll know like it's legitimate, GenLogs sees them, and now I can trust this carrier. So yep, that's what we're going to be putting in people's hands here this year. It's going to be awesome.
Oh, wait, did you just say that you're also acquiring the domain.com?
We quietly did that about a year ago. And we've been so busy just building the product that we haven't even changed our website to map to there. And so at some point, we'll announce that we have genlogs.com going forward. We do own it, and someday that'll be what will be known as going forward.
Oh, thankfully, because when I start talking to people, I say GenLogs, I say .com. It's like, no, it's IO, it's IO. I'm glad I don't have to keep correcting about that.
For Monday, we will redirect any genlogs.coms to GenLogs, to our current website. So we'll at least have that set up so that you could also say, yep, genlogs.com works as well.
Okay, well, we know how these scammers work. They create these email addresses with very, very similar domains, and it fools people. So it's important to get that word out that genlogs.com starting Monday will also is valid for you guys. So I'd hate for people to start impersonating you, though I'm sure others have tried.
We do get, unfortunately, as we become more and more known, people are trying to scam us just like they are everyone else, phishing attempts and this and that. And we constantly have to post on our internal channels at GenLogs, hey, beware, this is not Ryan Joyce trying to reach out to you. It's a scammer. We had a really good one the other day that someone sent an email that looked like it came from me saying to our accounting department saying, hey, I approve this to be paid. And it was like $100,000 invoice. And fortunately, we have a really slick accounting department that said, this doesn't seem like right. And so we're just going to check. And sure enough, it wasn't a bill that I wanted them to pay.
They have no shame.
Wow.
all.
Scammers have no shame whatsoever. One of my favorites back when I was working in an office was the email that came from the CEO saying, "Hey, do me a favor, go out and get 100 or 10 gift cards at $100 a pop, and send them over to this hotel. I'm hosting a group of guys there, you know." And they have no shame. It drives me nuts. The worst part is, though,
this is why
I will tell people
such pleasure when GenLogs can work with law enforcement to arrest these guys. And you know, we still haven't fully given out all the details, but there was a very large and well-known criminal syndicate in the trucking industry that was arrested a few months ago. And GenLogs was quietly working behind the scenes with law enforcement to make those arrests and take them down. And we're continuing to do that every day, man. And it brings me so much joy to know that when these people harm an owner-operator's reputation, when they steal from a small mom and pop shipper, that when we can deliver justice there, it's the greatest feeling in the world.
If you ever get video of any of that, I would love to sit there and post that up as one of our Task Force Minute episodes. Because these carriers don't get justice. They rarely ever do. You know, I've been chasing after this one guy for almost 2 years now, out of Texas. He's had 9 different carrier authorities, and he hires a bunch of owner operators. They start running for him, and he never pays them. And around week 2 or week 3, when the driver starts getting wise that there's a problem, he cuts off their fuel card, leaves them stranded in the middle of nowhere. So the driver sits there and says, "You know what? Screw this. I quit. I don't deserve to be treated like this." And then the smart ass will actually pick up his phone and call a guy and say, "Oh, yeah, well, you know that $7,000 I owe you? Yeah, there's a $10,000 contract termination clause in the contract. So screw you. Thank you." Click. We've recorded 70 victims of this guy, 70 victims of this guy doing this kind of thing. And I cannot wait for the day that FMCSA finally goes and serves papers against him. And they've already told me they will let me know when it happens so that I can fly out to Dallas with my camera and record it. Because I want to give those guys what semblance to justice they can possibly get from watching this little 27-year-old, 28-year-old now, punk fry. I can't wait for that. The satisfaction you must get in being able to deliver that level of justice to carriers, even if it's quiet and unknown, has got to be amazing. I wish I could feel that every day.
Truly.
Congratulations on that.
Absolutely. Well, credit to the team as well. We work with phenomenal folks at GenLogs. We have former Green Berets and Purple Heart recipients and all of this that just want to do right by this industry and right by the United States. And we truly believe that we can keep this world in the United States safer and stronger by making unbreakable supply chains through our data and what that data can do.
You know, I've heard a lot of guys in this industry sit there and say, you know, hey, part of the driver shortage problem, you know, we know it's not that there's a shortage of drivers, it's a shortage of qualified drivers. The answer is the military. Go to the Department of War. Go to some of these guys who are coming out. They're dedicated. They're professional. And, oh, by the way, this has been how we've been replenishing people in this industry for decades. Why are we not doing that anymore? I don't know, but it's really good to see that you're stepping up among veterans of not just civil service, but also the military in your organization to do real, measurable good for the industry. There's just nothing bad that I could ever say about you guys other than cost, and you're addressing that too. So I'm absolutely loving it.
Great. We're going to take away all people's excuses to hate, because we want to be fully all just known as like the helpful guys, the Batman's Dark Knights of the industry.
Let me go on the record of saying GenLogs is not a sponsor of the program. So I'm expressing my opinion, folks, and not that they've paid for it. No, what we try to do on this program is we try to bring people in who are making a difference and bring real change to this industry. And you definitely qualify, Ryan. You've done such amazing work, and clearly the future is bright for GenLogs. We really hope that at least through the task force, we can do some work together and do some good for the whole of the industry. I know you've got another meeting you've got to run off to here shortly. How can people get a hold of you?
Well, you can certainly look at our website, genlogs.io, genlogs.io, or .com here pretty soon. I'm also on LinkedIn, Ryan Joyce, RyanJoyce. You can reach out, connect with me. I love to chat with folks in the industry. And I'm also on Twitter or X at Ryan Joyce Voice is where you can find me there.
Okay, you got any final thoughts you want to share with the rest of the industry here?
Look, at the end of the day, I think one of the big issues we've seen is there's a digital environment where carriers are operating, and there's a physical environment where they operate. They operate on load boards, they operate on the roads. And GenLogs is here to try to tie those two together to make sure that the digital footprints match the physical footprints. And that's what we're going to be doing from now until the end of time, to making sure that those are doing like just God's work on the road, get more freight at better rates, and those that are trying to defraud us get placed behind bars. And that's what we'll do to the end of time.
I absolutely love it. Ryan, thank you so much for taking time to join us today. All the best wishes to you and your team. You guys do amazing work, and thank you for everything that you all do. Jeff, you got anything?
Ryan, for joining us. Like John said, we'd love to have you back and find out more about what you're doing.
Sounds great. I'd love to come back.
Okay. Well, for next week, those of us who keep tabs on what we do around here, we are going to be talking a lot about the Department of War and the freight problems they have. If you think freight fraud is just an issue here on the civilian side, you're dead wrong. We're going to have Justin Martin out here talking to us about what's going on there over at SDDC and US Transcom and what they're doing to try to help deal with fraud in the industry. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us for such a late lunch. Your check is sitting on the table. Be sure to tab out your server, and we will definitely see you next week on the Tic Toc Diner. Take care, folks.